our project, and it's just me presenting. Our team is busy today, but we're looking at interventions to reduce wait times for bereavement support services. So we have about a 3-month wait at this time. Sometimes that even increases a bit to access bereavement support after people have lost a loved one. Oh, you're moving the slides, not me. Okay. So this is our team. We can probably go to the next slide. This just explains the client story. So I'll have you take a moment and read this. Okay, I think we can move to the next slide. Our problem statement is that clients accessing bereavement support services are currently waiting 77 days. This has been happening pretty regularly since 2015, and the long wait results in clients not receiving the services to help them with their grief in a timely manner. So our aim is to reduce the wait list to access bereavement support by 30% by this July. Next slide. Kind of messy, but I think messy work can produce some good results too. So we had this focus group back in October with staff and clients, and we mapped out the whole journey to access bereavement services. So it starts at intake with people calling in for help, and the clients being part of this journey discussed on this mapping session that they felt very much in a haze, as you can imagine. And for anyone who's lost someone close, we would all feel like this, kind of disoriented, unfocused. So really just reaching out in that moment, not really sure, just asking for support. So at this point, we do have a coordinated access intake team. They take down all the information. They assess for risk and a lot of demographic information. And then it moves on, and basically people are told that they now have to wait. So underneath this kind of messy writing, we did have the clients kind of at the same time expressing how they felt about that. So they were talking about feeling very frustrated at this point, that they felt when they made that phone call or walked in for service that they were ready for support, but weren't able to get that. So felt alone. Who do we reach out to? Nowhere else to go. They know they wanted group support, but couldn't get group support because they were told they had to go through an intake, and it felt very unknown. Next slide. So we kept mapping this out. Very satisfied once they were able to access service. The clients, talked about that they felt safe, they felt understood, that staff got it, and felt very supported. But it was just that wait time to get there. And we felt too that the clients during this meeting was very interesting. They felt quite comfortable giving suggestions on how to improve our services. So they were mentioning at this point, if it wasn't possible to get in any sooner, then to at least have access to information, whether that was on our website, to deliver a package, where can they go for resources, and how can they just get to a group? If it was a support group, is there an easier way to just access this type of support? So next slide. So based on the client information from that focus group, the staff information as well, we moved on to the fishbone diagram. So this involved only 6 of us at this point. So we kind of mapped out from the client perspective, technology, staff, our process, and we mapped out to our problem statement and how we can best serve clients. So the next slide will explain, I always say this wrong, Pareto chart. So unfortunately, the individual helped us with our data analysis here, I think Alex. He mentioned that our base for support, it was too low. We didn't have enough responses to be able to see a significant change based on the fishbone results. So we thought we should probably involve more people. So what we did was we sent out the fishbone again and all of our fishbone results, and we invited about 11 staff to respond. What do you think are your top three? What do you see as the top three reasons or root causes for this wait to access bereavement services? So besides sending it out to all of the bereavement staff, we also sent it out to the coordinated access staff. So they are the staff that take all intakes into CMHA programs, and we asked them to kind of chart their top three. So the next slide. So with a bigger base of responses, this is still our small base. Next slide, sorry. So you're seeing here more information regarding what the root cause could be, and the next slide talks about this. So here are the results from the fishbone diagram that went out to about 11, 12 staff, and we have been focusing on the top three responses as far as trying to really understand the root cause for a wait. So assessment takes time. This is talking about the pen and paper assessment. So the bereavement staff are using their own assessments when they do get the clients to come into the program. So initially the clients have an intake assessment through CMHA, which is an assessment that anybody new who would be calling or walking in for service receives. So besides clients going through that assessment, they also go through another assessment in bereavement services. So staff are saying that this takes time. Lack of staff resources. The program is small. We have only one full-time staff person, but they both work part-time, doing bereavement support. And this staff complement also helps to provide supervision to peer support volunteers in the bereavement program. We have two other full-time staff that are offering therapeutic support to those bereaved, so they would be looking at more complex grief. One individual supports families that supports children who are going through grief. So it is a small program, and unfortunately it's not 100% funded, any government funding. So we do rely a lot on fundraising. So there's a lack of staff resources. Referrals to the program are not matching the mandate. So we realize that at times clients are calling for help at intake, yet they are experiencing maybe other types of mental illness. They may be looking for housing. They may be looking for employment, but they also add, I've lost someone. So it may not be the main reason that they're calling. When we do end up getting this client in for service, we're finding out that our staff are having to deal with other concerns first, because if you don't have housing, it's very difficult to address bereavement. So inappropriate kind of referrals are happening, and discharge is postponed from the program caused by clients' low life functioning and no one to refer to in the community. So sometimes our bereavement staff are dealing with individuals who, they've been able to get through, learn from the grief experience, get the help through our staff, but then the staff have concerns that there are still other mental health concerns going on, or this person now they realize they need help with activities of daily living or something else, and they're finding that they're trying to find help in the community. So it's very difficult to discharge someone at that point. So these were some of the root cause that have come up in our program. However, we decided with the lack of staff resources, that was one we ended up taking off the table because we just don't have the capacity to hire more staff at this point. So next slide. So we ended up agreeing on these top 3 root causes: the time involved with the assessment, grief not being the priority at the time of referral, and the postponement of discharge. Next slide. So we just sort of added a chart here just to keep things a little bit more organized. Time involved with the assessment, change idea. We do have all client intake assessments happening at coordinated access, so it is one stop. How can we, if we are getting all that information at coordinated access, do we need to duplicate any information when they're coming to us once we are picking up for bereavement? So that was one thought. The other issue around this is, even though coordinated access has been in place since January of this year, this was happening a little bit earlier. It just wasn't a formalized process across all programs. But our decision support analyst is able to now look back, starting in January of this year, just to have a better understanding of who's coming in. We get all that demographic information electronically. It's all being done through CRMS, so we all have access to the same data. So our process measures that we're looking at are how many people are actually coming in for bereavement support compared to other programs, and the number of days to individual counseling for bereavement support. We can get a better measure of that wait time now that this intake process is all electronic and happening since January. The other root cause with the referrals not matching the mandate, the team really believes that we can get some kind of evidence-based screening tool right at intake. So the more appropriate referrals can come in. Recognizing that intake right now, it's just a very general intake. It's not getting into specifics about bereavement. So we want to look further into that. So we want to make sure that the number of referrals match the mandate of our program as a process measure, and also look at the number of days to access individual counseling for bereavement support. So if they're being assessed at intake as something more complex, then they can be referred more quickly to the complex grief. And then the root cause around discharge, to be able to create an internal referral process so staff can readily refer bereaved clients to other appropriate programs based on their needs. This process started in January. A newly created internal referral form developed in CRMS, so that all staff now, if we receive a referral, for example, for bereavement, but we find again in this referral that the person doesn't have housing, an intake to housing can happen with our intake referral form. So, and again, as a process measure, we would measure that and the percent referrals to other appropriate mental health programs. So this can be all done by any of us working across a variety of programs at CMHA, that we would have access to that electronic data. Next slide. Sorry, this kind of looks ugly, but this is our cycle 1 change idea. Going back again to that client journey mapping that we did, how they were talking about an updated list of grief resources to be available on the website. We also have information sessions that we offer monthly. Could those be posted on our website? Our predictions were that more individuals will access quality grief resources online in order to increase their understanding and knowledge of the grief process. Bereaved persons will also have the option of registering online for upcoming sessions to cope with normative grief. So we can collect data on website hits and document hits. Next slide. Cycle 2, we want to research an evidence-based screening tool that will help staff better identify normative versus complex grief in order to efficiently screen people to the right program. And the data collected, right now we're looking at research tools. We have a clinical practice lead who is looking at some tools that are out there for screening. So we want to be able to get staff feedback on the tool once we decide on one. We could get that through a staff survey. We want the client feedback on the tool and get that on a client survey or engagement questions. You know, we could ask, did you feel listened to? We've had some staff discussions around tools and these kinds of assessments where staff feel they don't want clients to feel uncomfortable that they're using some kind of a tool, or they want it to be more natural. They don't want people to feel uncomfortable. Grief is a very emotional process, so they didn't want to come across as cold or looking academic, I guess, in some way. So making sure that the client still feels engaged with staff, no matter what tool. Next slide. Cycle 3, we felt this QI work is very interesting. It starts out with, you know, one set of ideas, and then it kind of expands into other areas. So as we were meeting, we kept meeting fairly regularly about this. We thought, you know, we expect so much for our program to deal with grief, when grief is really affects all of us. You know, we will all be affected by grief throughout our lifespan. So we started thinking more broadly about community partners out there who are also doing some work in grief and bereavement, and what kind of agencies are out there. So maybe, you know, we want to be recognized as grief experts, but can we change our role to provide more education and training to our community partners, and maybe retain our CMHA seal of approval on things? So we know that there are, we have Family Service Windsor, we have family health teams, we have community health centers, we have a center for seniors. Can we empower more partners out there to offer, you know, information, education, support to help those who are grieving? And we can train those individuals. So somehow, you know, trying to sort of lessen the burden of taking every grief referral in the community and recognizing that we can't possibly keep seeing individuals one-on-one for normative grief. Next slide. So our run chart for the wait time right now, this is going back fiscal year, so April to December of 2018. You'll see a real spike around starting, you know, August. There was some vacation time in there with our staff. And also I've learned that grief really peaks just before the holidays. That's a very, very hard time for people around Christmas. So they get much more phone calls from previous clients, walk-ins, a lot of difficulty getting through the holidays. But anyway, our wait time remains pretty consistent. Next slide. So we did do a driver diagram, and our drivers are to shorten that assessment time, increase the rate of appropriate referrals, and really look at community partnerships for post-service referrals. And our change ideas, we now have coordinated access, who they are completing all our initial intakes. We would like to find this standard screening tool and have all clients screened for grief so that they receive appropriate service. We've started branding our grief tips, our sheets and materials, and we want to coordinate referrals for normative grief, which would be more mild, with our key community partners, and leverage capacity in our community for normative grief delivery. And then with that aim of reducing access to wait time by 30% in July. Next slide. So our change ideas, right now, as of this morning, actually, I just received more of our grief tips. They've all been updated. So I'm going to work with our IT staff and get that updated to our website under our bereavement program. So this will be a nice standard package that anyone can download and print off if they're experiencing grief or they need to share with others. We also will be promoting our information sessions on this website, and people can register online. The whole team is involved in this change, including our support staff, who often take phone calls. Our theory is that more people who are experiencing grief will receive the resources to help them cope with their experience. We plan to measure improvement by, I guess, the number of website hits, the number of participants attending these information sessions. And a risky assumption would be that, just because people are on a website or attending information does not indicate that they will experience complex grief, or it doesn't indicate that they don't want one-on-one support. Next slide. Our data collection, our outcome measures, we want to look at client engagement, client experience, process measures, the number of website hits, the number in attendance at information sessions, and balancing measures. What effect will these above measures have on our wait list for individual support? Will clients have their needs met with standard educational resources and access to information? Attending an information session isn't individual support. We do have a number of people stating that they want individual support. Next slide. Qualitative results to date. Our resources are going to be posted on our website very soon. We have a whole program redesign meeting. I think, is that next week already? Yes, next week. So we have basically invited those key community partners that I talked to you earlier about, and our staff, some managers, and we are looking at having a mapping session around normative grief and how our community partners can become more involved, and how we can involve those partners right at intake, and making sure that when people call for bereavement to our phone number, or they walk in, that they get consistent information in regards to normative grief, who can help them, and receive help right at the beginning so that they feel more supported. Next slide. Our key overall challenges, again, is that screening tool for normative versus complex grief. We're still researching tools. Our clinical practice lead thinks the best way to do this is to look for a tool for complex. If people aren't scoring high for complex grief, then we can safely say that they may need more support with bereavement. And another challenge is, again, leveraging that capacity for normative grief services in our community. We have future planning dates set, like I said, next week, but I don't have the results yet for this project. But we are very excited about this and look forward to involving our partners. Next slide. Our lessons learned. We're most excited about this program redesign. We recognize that CMHA, our values too, and what we offer is help for those with moderate to severe mental illness. So again, how can we work with our community partners to offer more education and support to people experiencing normative grief in our community? We've had really good staff engagement. We're thankful to have someone looking at research right now regarding evidence-based tools. Next slide. I think next time what we would do differently is maybe look at root causes earlier. It just seemed that we were really back and forth on that. It took a long time to get at the root cause, and it was a really difficult, slow process. And impact on the organization. Further program redesign meetings are scheduled with other teams regarding wait times to services. So our small program, by looking at how we can leverage more community support regarding our bereavement services, has sort of spiked interest across the organization. Other teams want to look at program redesigns themselves and kind of thinking about what are we offering, how can we offer things differently, and some improvement as far as client feedback and staff feedback and community feedback. So I think that might be it. Next slide. I'm not sure. Oh, there's more. Next step. Right now, we think as far as sustaining improvement, we're still working. We're still working on the project and continue to work on our program redesign. And whoever can benefit, I guess we'll just let you know if there's any interest. We can post this somewhere. And I think that might be the last slide. Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Thanks so much, Laura, for that presentation. Again, a fantastic example of the project, and I love when I see it. Just makes my heart sing when I see the slides like the root causes of the problem, and you get your change ideas that line up with those root causes, and then your process measures of how you're going to measure those change ideas, all nicely laid out like that. And that's what you want to see in these projects. So great work from your team.
Thank you.
Any questions from folks on the line? You can type them in the chat box. Questions from folks in the room? All right, not hearing any questions. Thank you again, Laura. We'll take a